Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to another episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Brent Bowers. Brent, let's start by give the audience an introduction to who you are, and then we'll get into some of this land stuff.
Love it. My name is Brent Bowers, as you just said, Glenn. Thanks for having me on the Canadian Investing in USA. This is definitely the first time I've ever been on a podcast that wasn't in the USA or wasn't about the USA, but I think we got a lot of stuff we can give your listeners. I am a land investor, full-time land investor, full-time husband, full-time father, and I do land because it offers so many things that, single families and multifamilies don't offer. And, I'm no dummy to the multifamily and the single family space. I also own a real estate company that buys and sells houses as well. And I'm a part owner of a 19-unit apartment complex, but I love land because it gives me the financial freedom. It gives me monthly paychecks, and it gives me, most importantly, time freedom to spend with my family and to travel and do whatever the heck we like. Because I haven't always had that with my W-2 job, but that's a little bit about me.
So yeah, I heard Brent on another show, and I was like, I got to get this guy on my show because it's just a topic that we really haven't tackled. And until I actually heard his show, I really didn't even understand how land is a good investment, because typically I'm looking for cash flow, or I'm looking for like a flip opportunity or something like that. And I'm like, how do you make that work with land? So,
yeah.
Tell us a bit about land.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like you were telling me about the guy in Indiana just picking the lots up for super cheap. And that's kind of how I started. Yeah. I was wholesaling. I was actually trying to get my wholesaling business off the ground while I was an Army officer. I don't know if you know anything about being an officer in the military, but it is extremely demanding. The military literally owns you, and you're always working. I'm at my office by 5:30 a.m. and leaving usually at 6 or 7 at night. So it was not a W-2 job. It was literally, shackles for me, myself. I had a great time in the military, but that was, I call that my stepping stone. It was my learning experience. It got me out of the country. I learned a lot. However, I wanted to get back home. My 8.5 years in the military, I was probably only home maybe 4 years out of 8.5 years. So I was looking for an opportunity. So I was starting a wholesaling business because I thought that was easy. Yep. I thought it was really easy to buy houses and then turn around and sell them to cash buyers. And then I was just hitting walls. I was mailing, spending lots and lots of money. I mean, like several thousands of dollars a month on mail. And oh, by the way, I only made, $5,000 a month. So I was going in credit card debt. But the coach I had hired for wholesaling, he said, throw all the vacant land stuff away. So I was doing that. Yeah. Well, I'm listening to podcasts because I'm still searching for knowledge, taking action. But that was the thing. I think that's what made me successful. Is I always was just taking action. I'll listen to podcasts on the way to work and then take action at night, basically, and during the lunchtime. But something, I came across this podcast where this guy's like buying land at auctions, and I didn't understand any of that. But I was like, I have all these land mailers. I'm mailing the tax delinquent list and the county held tax lien list. For those that don't know, tax delinquent list is just people that get behind and they don't pay their taxes. And the county held tax lien list, most people don't know about that. That is something where the land or the property sucks so bad and no one's even paying the tax lien on it. So I mailed those guys as well. Out of 687 letters, my phone rang about 84 times. And I bought 2 properties from that, 2 pieces of vacant raw land. And oh, by the way, they were both non-buildable, and one you couldn't even access. But I bought them both for around $285 and then $300 on the second. And I flipped them so fast, and I mean fast. Like the first one I did the next day for $5,000. And then the following week, I got a $500 down payment. So I got my investment back out of it. Yeah. And then held financing for the next 10 months at $400 a month. Or actually, no, it was 11 months. Long story short, I got about $5,000 for that one too. So both of those were really quick, fast, easy money. And the second one was even better because I held the financing. So I got paid for a few months on it, 10 months to be exact. So
yeah. So,
after
I'll cut you off quickly. So people who didn't quite catch that, he bought the property and then he seller financed the property or the land. I'm so used to saying property.
Yeah.
The land out. And he was making almost each payment was the amount he purchased it for, right? Was it pretty close? Well, I don't remember the exact
You're dead accurate, Glenn.
Yeah.
You're dead accurate. And I knew I went through that quickly. And please cut me off because I like to talk.
I like to break it down so people get that, right? Like they get that, like, you know, they can, because people are like, how do you get a cash flow from land? And there it is. There's the secret sauce right there. So anyway, continue. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's it. That was the secret sauce. And I was just like, for about 10 property deals, now you've got me calling it properties, for about 10 land deals, I didn't believe it. I was like, is this really possible? And I want to say easy, but it wasn't easy. There was still work involved. But I never looked back after that. We started rinsing and repeating, you know, coming up with a way to buy more land, started expanding. And it's funny, the county I first started in, which was my own backyard in Colorado Springs, Colorado, I do the lease land deals here. And because there's so much opportunity all over. It's kind of like you were telling me about in Indiana. Like, I'm going to check that city out and I'm going to start buying some land there. But, you know, at the end of the day, I can break this down for the listeners very easy. I am getting land at a massive discount and I'm buying this land at a massive discount and I'm turning around and selling it at a premium and offering seller financing for two reasons. One, it opens up the world of buyers for me because there's a lot more people out there that can afford $1 or $2 or $3 or $500 a month rather than $6 or $7 or $8 or $10,000 down or $50,000, whatever the land costs. Yep. You know, most banks will not finance. I'm offering two things. I'm offering the financing and the land. You know, people don't even realize this is possible. And then number two, for me, every deal we do, I know that we're going to be paid for the next 5, 6, 7, 30 years cash flow. So every time we do a deal, let's just say we do 5 deals in a week that get us $200 a month. Every single week, we add $1,000 a month to our cash flow. It really adds up.
And you touched on another awesome thing. The land. Land is, as far as I've found, is not really financeable. Even when you're doing, I know you can find some lenders that will do like ground up construction. So if you're planning to do the construction from day one, you might be able to factor the land into it. But especially when you're in Colorado, you're a more expensive market, right? So a lot of times people don't have the money because they want to do like, say, a fix and flip loan to build this house or a new construction loan, but sometimes it doesn't finance the land. So if you're buying some of these more expensive areas, like, you know, where lots are 100,000 or so, you can't buy these. You can't finance the land. So if you have to come up with $100,000 or whatever, even 50 or 10,000, whatever your number is, you get stuck. I was looking at building new construction houses in Canada, and some of the lots are like $400,000 for a vacant lot, and you're like, I have to sink in $400,000 and then build a house, but at the end I can refi and get it all back. But It's just, you're stuck, and it's a pain point that you can solve for people, because you know what, if I could get that $400,000 lot, but I was just making payments of even $1,500 a month, it's much more, or $2,000, whatever it works out to, it's much more manageable and makes more sense in my mind than letting $400,000 sit in a lot. And
yeah, you have way less risk. You know, let's just say you finance it for 10 months, $1,500 a month. You have what, 15 grand into it, rather than $400,000 sitting there. And I just ran into that. You know, we call it the Bur Method: the buy, renovate, rent it out, and then refinance it. Well, hey, my office space, I did that. Yep. So here's the catch, though. I had about $139,000 cash into this, and it's now time to refinance. So I refinance it. Guess what? How much of that cash I got back out? Thank God I didn't have to come to the table of closing like I'm having to do on a second Bur.
Yeah.
I got 20,000 back, 20,000 out of 139. That was kind of a kick in the pants. And the reason why, it's a commercial building with 9 offices in it, and there's none rented out. It's just me. I'm the only tenant. So they looked at the evaluation and hardly gave me any of my money back because I didn't have tenants. Another thing, we bought a lake house. I sunk about $100,000, well, no, not 100, about $80,000 cash into this house. And now I'm refinancing out of my hard money loan. Guess how much I have to come to the table? Another 20,000. So I'll have $100,000 into this house. So land, it's crazy because I could buy this lot, or this buildable lot, what you're talking about in Canada, which that's $400,000 for a lot. Like, I'm not messing with that stuff. No. That's too expensive for my blood. I would probably have to send 5,000 offer letters at 25 cents on the dollar to get maybe one accepted, which is fine. That's still good numbers. You buy it for $100,000 and sell it for $400,000, quick 300,000. I would probably flip that one. I probably wouldn't even sell or finance it unless I got a down payment large enough to pay the amount I paid the seller. So I love to focus on these lots that are $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, and I get most of my money back with a down payment. So that gets my risk out of it. Like, I'm literally profitable on most of these within 6 months. So not the same thing with houses and land.
What I was going to ask you, you kind of touched on it already. What are these buyers looking to do with this land that are buying it from you?
That's a great question. And if you had asked me that a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have had the same answer. And, you know, most of the time I've sold over probably 250 parcels of land now. It's funny because I'll give you the top 5.
Yeah.
We want to build a house on it one day. We want a cabin, or we want to build a cabin, just something we can go to once in a while. We want to do off-grid, like a little tiny house, or we want a place where we bring our RV. We want to camp, build a fire, lay under the stars, have a place for our four-wheelers and dirt bikes and all that. So that's kind of the top 5. Now, eventually these people get around to it, but all the times that people ask me, hey, can I build on it while I'm paying for it? I always tell them yes. Yes, of course. Do you know how many have actually built on the property while they're paying me for it? Not one single person. So it's just a someday maybe for a lot of people. And, recreational is my bread and butter, recreational land. If your listeners I'll explain what recreational land is. Yep. It's basically land on the outskirts, away from the city, 30, 45 minutes away from the McDonald's and the Walmarts. Recreational land is, you got more options. It's not as restricted. You can have that cabin, and there's some areas that restrict you, but you just got to kind of figure out what the county wants and abide by the rules.
Cool. And there's also the zombie apocalypse if you're getting up on the mountains and stuff, right?
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what, I don't like to talk about COVID too much, but I will say that COVID has made such a demand for our recreational land. It's just wild. Just wild. It's actually driven prices up, which is fine because I had a lot in inventory.
Yeah.
So I was able to some of my properties charge 50% more because there was so much demand. Not that I was price gouging, but it just our leads almost doubled when COVID started happening because everyone wanted to get away. I know a family that they actually spent their 14 days quarantine time in their camper on a piece of land I sold them.
So you mentioned there you're marketing to sellers. So if you go to sell these, are you using one of those land sites to sell it, or are you doing your own direct to seller?
You betcha, Glenn. I like to be omnipresent. I really used to just sell my land on Craigslist. Craigslist got a little funny. I'm still on Craigslist. We still get great results on Craigslist. But then I went to also Facebook, buy sell groups. What's going on in places like Maine right now or New York?
Yeah.
It's getting really cold.
Right.
So I just joined these buy sell groups and advertise my Florida land where it's really warm. And we do things like neighbor letters. I send letters to the neighbors like, hey, I own the land right next to you. I'm interested in selling it, and I'd even finance it for you at 0% interest or something like that.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of neighbors buying it. We do signs. We put signs out on the sides of highways. I love buying land next to a highway. And what I'll do is I'll still sell that land, but but I'll put in my contract for deed, my land sales contract. That's how we sell the land on a contract for deed.
Yep.
I'll put in there that they've got to let me leave my sign up for like 5 years. And then to answer your question, yes, you bet you, I'm on all the land websites, Land Watch, Land and Farm, Land Century, because it works. That people are actually going there to buy land. If they're scrolling through a buy sell group, we're just kind of catching the people that don't really realize they want land or know that they can even finance land. And we get a lot of deals from all over. I would say my best key performance indicator, my KPI, to where I get the most leads and the most conversions, is probably right now our signs.
I was just doing I did a wholesale course on the weekend, and they were still saying all the bandit signs are still outperforming the letters and everything else, which is so old school. But yeah,
they'll say our bandit signs for our house buying company, we haven't gotten a deal for about a year on those.
No,
we put about 100 a week out. Maybe we can even double it or something. But it's funny because our last deal, I remember the numbers. It was one that my company actually flipped. We made $56,000 profit. And when we go in the negative on signs, we're done with them. Like, we're absolutely done. I've had signs blow into people's cars. We've had to pay for that stuff. Those little dinky bandit signs. I don't do that with land. I use the more secure 4x4s in the ground, plywood. Yeah. I own the land. We're not playing those games with the city because we can only put them out on Friday. I have to pick them up on Monday. It's such a pain in the butt.
Do you have to get permits with those big signs?
In some areas, depending where you're at. Like, for instance, funny story. I live in a landowners association. I live on 58 acres. Mm-hmm. Landowners association. And my land goes right up to an interstate. It's very long. And I put a sign out there. I'm so proud of this sign. It's like both sides reflective. I was going to put lights on it. It's a huge piece of plywood. Well, guess what? The landowners association. Well, no, let me back up. Guy calls me, says, "Hey, your sign's on my land." I was like, "No way. There's no way my sign's on your land." I looked because I stood on top of my barn and figured out where the center of my property was at. And the other neighbor owns 40 acres next to me. Well, it was actually a land investor that bought the triangle, the 1.25 acres between me and my neighbor on the highway.
Oh,
sure enough, he was dead right. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, man, I'll move it. I'm so sorry." He's like, no worries. He was really cool. He's like, "Just leave it. It's all good. Buy rock from my quarry one day." And I sure enough did. We were landscaping. Yeah. But about a month later, the Landowners Association contacts me. Speaking of permits, that's where this is going. It goes, "Hey, you need to remove your sign, and here's the fine if you don't do it." And I'm looking at this fine. It's like $200 a month. And I was like, I will pay the fine because that sign has sold me almost $150,000 in notes receivables coming in, several thousand.
Wait, isn't the sign on someone else's property? Are they part of the homeowners association too?
You got it, Glenn. So I had a little ace in the hole of my dumb luck. God blessed me. And I sent the Landowners Association screenshots of the GIS map in the assessor's office, an email. And I was like, "Hey, that sign's not on my land." And they sent me a reply back, a letter in the mail of a thank you note for taking the time to reply to them, and nothing else to this day. So, talking about permits, do your due diligence. Mine was just dumb luck, honestly.
So you said start of COVID, you had a bunch of inventory, and it got more valuable during COVID because people are moving out of the city. It sounds like a business where you're holding a bunch of inventory throughout it. How long does it take to find the buyers for these properties? I know it's going to be market specific, but are you holding a lot of inventory in order to make this all work?
No. In the beginning, I would only do onesies, twosies, threesies at a time. If I only had a couple properties, they would be gone in 30 days. The reason why I had a lot of inventory is because I got on a buying spree. I found out this worked, and I got overconfident with it. I had a guy come to me with 117 parcels of land in Arizona.
Yep.
We bought them. I had another guy come to me with a package of, 18 properties in Colorado. We bought them. So I bought almost 25, 35 properties all at once within a few weeks time frame. So when you do that, you have a lot to sell. So it almost took a little while to ramp up. Now I'm back to the problem I was having a year ago. I'm out of land, so And oh, by the way, the guy that mails my land got COVID, so he took a month and a half off to feel better. He also had just had a brand new baby, so he kind of just like disappeared on me. So we stopped mailing and ran out of land. So now it's like I've got all these leads. I got 10 to 15 leads coming in a day, and no land to sell them. So it's kind of an up and down. And you know, I'm still learning. I'm still practicing. I have a active land business, you know, and every day we learn something. It's like getting that mail leveled off. Now we send about 50 offer letters a day, and then sometimes we'll change it up with a postcard. That way we have the constant trickle of land deals coming in.
So this is one thing that just popped in my head. Like, how do you calculate the ARV on land? Like,
good question. So I teach my students this, and I've done it a bunch of different ways, and it's so funny, you know, talking about dumb blind luck. I used to just offer half the assessed value because I had no clue how to do it. I didn't know what it was worth, but now I rely on the experts. You know, there's 3 experts out there. 1, realtors, and a lot of realtors don't dabble in land because, you know, sometimes it's like more of an inefficient type market. You know, they won't make a huge commission on a piece of land that's $40,000 or $30,000 or $20,000. So they don't really mess with it. But you can ask that realtor, hey, what other realtor, or who can you refer me to that that deals in land? Yep. Another way is get on Land Watch or Land and Farm and scroll through the area that you're in. Let's just say it's Phoenix, Colorado. There will be a realtor that face pops up. Like if you check Apache County, Arizona, my face is going to pop up as a signature seller, as the actual land specialist out there. Call that guy and see what the land's worth. You know, I also like to go to Zillow. Zillow is huge. You know, some areas Zillow's not in still, don't worry about that. If that's the case, and I'll tell you another resource, but go to Zillow, see what people are listing the land for, how long it's been on the market, and see what people are selling the land. So you get the for sale and the sold. Now, if there's like no transactions happening, that tells me there's no volume. Now, if there's a lot more for sale than sold, that tells me there's a lot of supply, not much demand. Yeah. Or there's a lot of sold and nothing available, a lot of demand, no supply. And then third, the land websites. This is the absolute best resource. I go to Land Century. I go to Land Watch, which is my favorite. I go to landflip.com, landmodo.com. All these sites have land for sale. So you can kind of see what it's worth. Like, let's just say you're looking for 5 acres and there's someone selling it for $50,000 and you see the average is $50,000 for 5 acres. That tells you the land's worth about $10,000 an acre in that exact area.
So you mentioned using a realtor. How does the realtor, because I've found whenever I do anything with realtors, how does the realtor get paid from that? Or are you just going to do some of the properties through them onto the MLS just so that because I find you guys going to asking for free advice is always tough.
Yeah, I don't recommend free advice. I like to ask the realtor, how do you want to be compensated?
Yep.
You know, do you want to list the land for me? Do you want me just to pay like a fee? And a lot of times it's so funny that the answers are always so different. There's some realtors out there that just serve. And the guy that lists, you know, I think he lists 12 houses for my house buying company last year, served us. He gave us all the comps, all the comparable market analysis, CMAs, or some people call them brokers' price opinions, BPOs. This guy did this for about 6 months for my house buying company for free. Oh, by the way, but he got 12 listings last year from us. So there's people out there. There's a great book called The Go Giver. It's give, and you eventually will receive. You know, it's a great attitude to have. So I like to ask the realtor how they want to be compensated. It's so funny. That first land deal I told you I did for $285, non-buildable piece of land overlooking a national forest. The reason why it was I'll tell you, let me back up. I didn't know what it was worth. I knew I could buy it for $285. Had no clue what it was worth. So me and my wife and my brand new baby took a ride on a Saturday, about an hour-and-a-half drive, went and looked at this magnificent piece of land. Like, I was in love with it. Had a lake down here. So we're leaving and we're like, how the heck do we figure out what this is worth? So I saw a real estate office not a mile away from the land. So I call and I talked to this sweet lady on the phone on a Saturday, took the call, And I asked, I was like, what can I blast this out on the MLS for? Like, I want to be gone with this in 30 days. She said, maybe 10,000, maybe. You're pushing it, maybe. And I'm thinking, ching, 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 ching. Like, yeah. I bought it for $285. I haven't bought it yet. I haven't even paid the seller yet, because $285 back in 2015 was a lot of money for me. Yeah. Like, that would have been like grocery money. Yeah. So I hang up with her, and she calls me back 5 minutes later. And I didn't know how to talk to realtors. I didn't ask her about compensation. I just told her I was looking at a lot and I'm wondering what I could list it for. And that she's doing her job. She's serving me. And she calls me back and goes, hey, I know you haven't paid for it yet. I know you're thinking about buying this lot, but is it okay if I buy it from you? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, what are you offering? She goes, I could pay $5,000. And I was just like, my eyes probably popped out of my head a little bit, because I'm like 285, 5,000. I'm no math magician, but I see ROI like just going up. Oh, and so I was like, well, when can you close? She goes, well, it's Saturday. I could probably close on Wednesday. Like, you're kidding me. So I'm a really good negotiator. And I was like, sure, let's do it. So I call the seller back and it's like, sure, I'll take the deal. We meet on Tuesday. I get my quit claim deed. It's the transfer document to the seller's quit claiming this property to me. And I'm stuck with any liens, encumbrances, whatever it's got. I didn't do any title search on it. And we're going to the title company Wednesday to get my check. So I send my quit claim deed to the title company. Title company wrapped everything up on Wednesday. I get out of work at 5 o'clock on Wednesday and I go and get my $5,000 check. That's calling a realtor.
That's a great story. So I think this is my last question, unless you have more to go with. But for these properties, is it easier to unload cheap ones? Is it better to be like doing low purchase prices, low sale prices? Or is it like better to get into the lots in like a city that might be more expensive? Where do you find is the magic sort of space to be in?
So I kind of started out in the infill lots, the buildable lots, the city lots, and they were really easy to get rid of. You know, I was just putting them on on Craigslist and they were gone. It's really what you prefer. You know, what you build will become easy. You know, what's that movie? If you build it, they will come. The Field of Dreams. Yeah. You know, at first, the lots I bought in Arizona were a little hard to unload. You know, I bought 117 lots and I was having a little bit of a hard time selling them. It took me a couple months to sell them. But once I found out the area that people were buying, so for instance, I figured out where the people were coming from moving to that area in Arizona, and I started advertising to them. So I just had to find the trend. Same thing with the buildable lots. It's really, you know, whatever is your cup of tea. I don't know if one is easier than the other. It's which one are you prepared for, and which, like, it's all going to be growing pains. It all takes work, but eventually you have a robust buyers list of, you know, several thousands of people looking for a lot in Apache, Arizona at this much, or you build that buyers list of builders, you know, whatever the, you know, Classic Homes and all these people, or you go around and find flippers or the We Buy Houses sign, and you start building a list of their email and their phone number, and you can call these guys like, look, I come across buildable lots all the time. I see you're building this new house. Is it okay if I call you next time I have one in inventory? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, please. So you get these people's phone numbers and emails. And once you build it, it becomes a rinse and repeat. You have your buying machine and then your selling machine. It's all about building the machines.
Right. And then you said you buy them at like 25 cents on the dollar. You're not selling them at 100%, right? Because usually you're selling to someone who's looking for a discount, right? So what are you, 75, something like that? Or
if I'm financing them, I sell them at what it's worth. Because I'm financing them, I can actually charge even more, I've found.
Yeah.
You know, let's just say, you know, sometimes I'll have people say, well, I don't want to pay that much. That's fine. What are you thinking? So if I know I've paid, you know, $3,000 and I'm selling it for $10,000 and they offer me $8,700, I say, fine, that's no problem. You still want to do the financing? What's the most you can put down? Well, I can put it down about $700. No worries. What's your affordable monthly payment? You know, $350 a month. And then since they got me from $10,000 to $8,700, what do? I put interest on it. 7% interest. And oh, by the way, I'm still going to get my $10,000.
Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Cool. Last thing before we go, I heard you slip in coaching program or a course or something. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is my passion. Like I really like the land, and I've got a team that now, helps me with the land. They buy and they sell it, and I get to get a monthly paycheck from it. Well, I needed to do something with my time besides drive my wife crazy. So I started coaching people, and I actually built the course around 16 live students, and I filmed all the modules, and it's all filmed. You can do it in the middle of the night. I think the longest video is 12 minutes, and it's all on action steps. I hold my students' hands and prepare them and show them what's coming and walk them through the steps of building your land buying machine and your land selling machine and everything in between. So it's a course. I do a weekly support coaching call that's recorded. So I'm literally like one-on-one coaching these students. So I think I have about 45 students so far. Half of them are having success, which is I'm just thrilled with, because I hate that whole 80-20 rule. Like, I'm gonna lead that horse to water, get that horse to drink, and if that horse doesn't drink, I'm gonna grab it by its neck and put it in the water and make it drink. So no, I push my students, but they do deals. And actually, one of them is here in the office with me. He just pulled up. So yeah. So if you want to check that out, it's thelandsharks.com. That's TheLandSharks.com, thelandsharks.com. Schedule a call. I'd love to jump on the phone, see if we're a good fit, if I can help you with your land investing goals.
I think it'll probably appeal to a lot of people for a couple of reasons. Like, the price points for the purchase and sale is going to be really affordable for buying property, especially if you can pick wherever you want. And that's a lot of the reasons why these Canadians are going to the U.S. is because the price points are much more affordable, right? I think it could be a good fit for a lot of people. I'm always looking at different streams of income, and I haven't done raw land, and it does sound very sexy.
I love it. Yeah, it's so less demanding. I have rental properties for tax purposes, and like I said, we have the flipping company, and our land buyers never really call asking for much besides, hey, I want to pay my land off, or hey, I'm behind, things like that, and it's going to happen. And we have automated note tracking software that basically pulls the payment each month for our land buyers. But there's not a lot of drama with them. Like, it's not, hey, I can't pay the rent this month, or just, hey, the roof's leaking, or hey, the toilet won't stop running. Like, things like that we get from our property managers.
No, that's great. Yeah, you're not dealing with tenants. Well, we still kind of, not really tenants though, but no toilets, no roof, none of that stuff. It's a lot cleaner as long as they pay their servicing fee. And you said you do that in-house instead of using like a servicing company, eh?
Yeah, I've looked at a few servicing companies, and man, they want like $40 a note, and it's like, I was looking at that, it's like adds up. So I use another note tracking software. They're absolutely incredible. Basically, they pull the payment for me each month, charge a late fee if they're behind. It tracks everything, and my bookkeeper just logs in, pulls it, uploads it to QuickBooks, and it's like we're done. So it's kind of in-house, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's nicer than using those, paying those fees to the servicing company.
Oh yeah, they were astronomical. I could see if like I was getting like $2,000 a month for a lease option on a house. Okay, $40 isn't much, but if I'm getting $5.99 or $2.99, some notes we have, I think it's $79 a month, like $40, no way.
Yeah, way too high.
I think I'm paying $100 a month for our note tracking software.
So, if people wanted to track you down, Brent, where do they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Brent L. Bowers, and that's Brent, L as in Lima, Bowers, Brent L. Bowers, or thelandsharks.com. I'm pretty easy to find.
Cool. I'll throw those links in the show notes, so people just want a quick link just to click on it and be easy. Cool. I really appreciate coming on the show. I learned a lot from you listening to you on other podcasts, and I got to pick your brain, which is the perk of having your own show, to add all my little extra nuances into it. But thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Glenn.